Welcome back to Your World on NTV Kenya. And it's time to switch gears a bit into matters banking and finance, because it's been a year since the launch of Stawi, a digital loan product aimed at increasing access to finance by small and medium enterprises. And with us this morning is Mr. John Gachora, the Group Managing Director of NCBA Group. Thank you for your time, John.
Thank you.
Asante sana. So, I know it's been a year since we had Stawi, but for anyone who may not be aware of Stawi, just briefly describe to us what is Stawi and the idea behind it.
Sure. So Stawi was this product or this offering that was created by a number of banks. So a number of banks came together. And the idea of Stawi was to address the needs of what we call medium to small enterprises. And specifically by giving them digital loans that were a bit longer than what is available in the market. So if you look at the market today, what is available is what I call short-term digital loans. So you have the unplanned credit like Fuliza, you have the planned credit like Mshwari and others, which run for about 30 days. However, for a lot of small businesses who want to set up a store or they want to, to build a shop, they require a bit more time. And so what Stawi was trying to address was that need by offering loans that are larger in size, up to 250,000 shillings, and longer in period of repayment, up to a year. So that's what they were trying to address.
Wonderful. And of course, this was also part of the banking sector's commitment to show that we can still give affordable credit to some of these sensitive sectors like the SME sector, even after the removal of the interest rate cap, rather. Has that been the case?
Yes, Kiprop. So the idea on top of the things that I just talked about is exactly what you say, that the bank's commitment to continue supporting the economy and knowing clearly that MSMEs are the engine of the economy. So this was part of our commitment to continue doing that. As I said, this was an initiative that was done by a number of banks and sponsored by the Central Bank of Kenya. So it was a true initiative of the banking sector.
All right. But in terms of the numbers, in terms of the uptake, would you, if we can go back to the specifics, how much perhaps as NCBA have you lent out so far?
So when we started and when we launched this, we had a bit of a false start at the beginning, and then we launched where the president actually joined in the launch a bit later. And what we saw were that there were a lot of people who registered. So as of now, we have about 130,000 people who have come, or small businesses who have come on stream. However, the borrowing has not been as much as we expected. And the reason being that obviously to be lent that kind of money, you have to prove that you're a true business, that the money you want to borrow is going to be used for business, specific business requirements. Obviously, the economy has had its a bit of challenges, and COVID has not helped that process. So the uptick that we have seen has been about 5,000 to 6,000 loans at any one time, which is still significant. But those are the numbers that we have seen. What we think will happen, however, is if you look at the number of customers who have registered, and as we make it easier, as we get to see more data about the trading that these customers are doing, obviously that opens up the credit. So we have about 30 to 40,000 customers who have been approved to take loans. But as I say, that uptake depends on the use and the economy. And so a lot of them who have been approved have not actually accessed the money.
Okay. So do you think the restrictions then in place are becoming some sort of an impediment? What can be done?
Well, look, this, as I say, this was meant to be a business loan. And as such, we needed the restrictions. This was not supposed to be a loan to take and go spend for Christmas. It was very specific as a business loan. So we put certain checks and restrictions to ensure that, one, we could see that you had cash flows that are coming from your business. Number two, you had a registered business. Number three, that the money that you're taking, you had specific uses for that money. And number four, that once you take the money, you'll be able to track your repayments by tracking your sales. So those are some of the restrictions that we put in place. Those were necessary if this was going to aid what it was supposed to do, which is helping those small businesses make capital investments.
All right. Of course, you can't speak on behalf of your not really competitors, but other partners in this product. But do you think the numbers in your from NCBA also reflect perhaps the situation in other?
Yes. So this being a joint product, the numbers I talked about are for the product because we track for the whole product. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And of course, 6 months after the launch of Stawi, which was around, I think, March this year, we all now had this entire thing of COVID-19, which has been a wild card, to say so, for many businesses. And the SME sector has been one of those which has been hardest hit. I don't know how this has impacted the uptake of Stawi products.
Well, certainly. I mean, those numbers I talked about were numbers around March. So the 130,000 uptake I talked about. Since then, it has really slowed down. That is expected. With COVID, what it meant is, remember, COVID came, and who are the people who are most affected? Well, the businesses that we see on the side of the street, which are these micro SMEs, yeah? And therefore, we did see almost a complete stop for a period of time. Obviously, it also became difficult to collect on some of the loans that we had. So I must admit that performance in terms of collections slowed down significantly when COVID came in. Now, what we are seeing is a small change, and that's why we are trying to, again, remarket Stawi, because we think it was meant for something. That need is still there as businesses reopen. But yes, the COVID period has been painful for everybody, including for Stawi.
All right. Okay. Would you then say that the idea behind Stawi is still alive?
The idea behind Stawi is still very much alive and very strongly supported, I must say. The need still exists. The need still exists. And in fact, post-COVID, it may even be more needed because businesses will be raring to go. Small businesses are raring to go. People have been at home. They need to earn a living. So we expect that we'll see a huge need for it. Schools are reopening. I mean, some of our borrowers were private schools that needed to make capital investment to buy desks or something else. They're coming back. And so we do see a huge need for Stawi type of product. And what we are looking at to do now is how do we make it even more accessible? Back to your earlier question, Kiprop, how do we make it even more accessible? Are there some barriers that we need to get rid of to make it more accessible? So those are the conversations that the banks are having today.
Okay, but obviously our banking sector is quite huge. We have so many players in the sector. Do you think perhaps bringing in other players would help in terms of accessibility?
You mean other banks or non-banking?
Yeah.
Yes. As I said, this was started with 5 banks when it started. We have had many other banks who have come on board and expressed interest. So it's not lack of funds, let's put it that way, because we have the support of the bank sector. So it's not lack of funds. It is making sure that, as I said before, that the design of the product, the accessibility of it, and the targeting is done to address the need that we were trying to address. Because, as I said before, from a digital perspective, the short term is well addressed. The very long term is well addressed. Banks come in. Yeah, if you're able to borrow loans for 2 years, you're probably the kind of customer a bank wants. It is that non-sweet spot that I call short-term investment before you can qualify to be a regular banking customer. How do we support you there? That need still exists.
All right. Wonderful. And of course, even during that period, this sector still remains very sensitive and is still a very important cog in our economy. And we've seen even different state-backed products like the SME Credit Guarantee Scheme. How do you view such other products? Do you think it's going to affect perhaps the interest in Stawi?
Well, I think one, Kipro, what the interest tells me is the need is there. The fact that even government is coming in to try to address this matter, it tells you there is a serious need to support these micro SMEs that exist. So any intervention that's available, whether that be from government, from private sector like the banks, becomes very, very necessary. And there are many other funds that have been set up to support this area because the need is there. The credit guarantee scheme for me is additive to what we're doing. Yeah? What we are doing, if we can get a credit guarantee on top of what we are doing, then it makes it even more accessible to more people. Perhaps we can relax some of those requirements, yeah, and therefore make it more accessible to others. So to me, any help that is available can only help what is needed.
So you're viewing this as sort of an enhancement?
Absolutely. I view it as a complete enhancement to the offering that we had made.
I didn't ask you about any other challenges other than COVID that you've probably noticed in the 6 months period before COVID.
I think one of them was, it's one we all talk about for small business, is data. Is that there are a lot of us who do business, small business, that don't keep our data in a way that it can be used. Yeah, we receive payments from various sources. Yeah, but we don't receive it in a way that can be tracked. I'm sure you've gone to a duka where, some take M-Pesa, some take cash, some might give your brother money for something, some, but it all comes to the business, but it's not trackable. You see, it's not trackable. Or we met in church, I paid somebody for sugar that I took last week. You can't track it, yeah? So it's one of the challenges we are faced with, and part of Stawi's job was actually to try to help businesses organize themselves better. Because once you're able to track these cash flows, then you're able to learn more and more. And you can go to a bank once you have that data, to a bank and say, here we are, I'm ready to get a bank loan. One of the offerings that Stawi has is what we call a credit access system, or credit passport system. What Credit Passport was supposed to do was, once we help you reorganize this data and we're able to get this information, then we offer you a credit passport that you can take literally and go to your bank and say, look, I am qualified based on this information to access larger loans than the 250 that Stawi was able to give. So that was the idea, was to help people graduate. And the success of Stawi wasn't the number of people it has being loaned, was actually the number of people it can transition, or number of businesses can transition into regular banking.
All right. And so from these lessons that you have learned during this period, how do you think then we can refine the product even much better, or even those who are looking to access this product can refine themselves to be able to fit in the classification?
Sure. One of them is what you're doing, thank you, is education. We need to educate these entrepreneurs on the need to ensure that data is kept and data is kept right. That you receive payments, you receive it in a traceable manner. That becomes very important, yeah? That is a traceable manner, because that trace is what helps create this credit access passport that we talked about. I think that's one. So education becomes very, very important. I think the second lesson that we have learned is that borrowing must be organized. Borrowing must be organized. You see, there are people who looked at Stawi at the beginning and said, well, I'm maxed up on Mshwari, so I can go to Stawi. That's not the idea. That was never the idea. And so people are denied loans on Stawi just because they had maxed on something else. Just knowing that borrowing must be organized, and you're going to repay those loans. But I think thirdly and most important is to realize that Stawi does exist there to solve the problem of what we call short-term capital investments. As I said, I talked about building vibadas. There are other people who have LPOs to build, to deliver certain items, especially with this affordable housing. You have an LPO to deliver windows, for example. And that process takes a bit of time. Stawi is there to give you that money that you need beyond, during that 6 months period, which is when you have to deliver those windows and get paid for them. Yeah, we had customers who produce wheelbarrows, and that becomes a customer that knows how to invest, get the materials, build the wheelbarrows, sell them. It takes a period of time. And that's what a Stawi loan would do. So, remember there is credit available. Stawi is there for that purpose. Number two, data is very important, that you centralize your payment and you keep that data available. Number three is to remember, at the end of the day, your experience, your credit is what is going to help you to go to mainstream bank.
Wonderful. But there's still those who would argue that, record keeping and this data thing should be for bigger businesses.
And that's the mistake we all make, right? We all think that record keeping should be for bigger business. Actually, record keeping is most important for small businesses. Bigger businesses get away with what I call benefit of the doubt. Yeah, they tell you we sold, $1 billion worth of stuff, and you can see, you sort of believe, yeah. But when you're a small business, only your records can speak for you. So it's very important. The smaller you are, the better the records you must keep.
Even if you're a kiosk?
Even if you're a kiosk, especially if you're a kiosk.
All right. So even as we wind up, how do you see the future of Stawi?
Well, I see it as being one that is addressing this need. The need continues to be there. As I said, I think post-COVID, the need will be even bigger. So I see Stawi continuing to fill that gap. I see Stawi being useful to organize small businesses to keep data, and that is very important for us. That's something that we're doing. And even the enhancements that we're doing is actually exactly that. How do we help these customers keep their data better? That's what we're working on. The other thing is, how do we decentralize Stawi? Is the other question we're asking ourselves. Is it too centralized? And therefore, do we need to decentralize it a bit into the various banks that are partners so that each bank can actually make it available to their new customers, as opposed to telling everybody you must come onto this one platform? So those are the conversations we're having. And lastly is, how do we engage the government on terms of this credit guarantee so it becomes available through the Stawi platform as well, because we're able to reach the customers. As I said, with 130 to 150,000 people already on Stawi, I think we have a wide reach that the government should take advantage of.
All right. But still, there is that point that I mentioned earlier about perhaps any relaxation in terms of the restrictions that you have.
No, I don't. Yes and no. I think the relaxation would be to help people get more data. I don't believe that you should relax your credit requirements, because credit requirements comes as a demonstration of need is available. You must not relax the need to demonstrate that need. That's the idea. And as I said, the cash flows, that you actually have a business, that you're registered, that you have a way to track your payments. All those are actually requirements that demonstrate the need to get that loan. Yeah? So it's one of those. You cannot put the cart in front of the horse.
All right. And finally, of course, the entire country right now is, of course, focusing on this post-COVID kind of recovery. I think by June, the CBK had mentioned that a huge, perhaps even 80% of the small businesses were at risk of collapse if they do not get any funding from investors. And we're at that point where those who survived are still trying to kind of come back to life. What do you think is the role of products such as Stawi and others in perhaps helping businesses in this recovery period?
Sure. Look, we have spent the last 6 months as banks working to support our customers. I think the very early decisions we took as banks was to have our customers survive before we worry about profits. And that's why the banks have sacrificed a great deal. As I said during our release for the half-year results, we had about $1.5 billion as NCBA we have given up, or that we have had to give up to ensure that we support our customers. And that number has only continued to grow even as we go into the end of the year. So I think that there is concerted efforts from the banks to support businesses. Now, if you look at now smaller businesses like the MSMEs that may not be formally banked, products like Stawi, products like the credit guarantee that the government is working on become very important to support these businesses. We shouldn't allow them to die. We shouldn't allow them to die. Now, however, some will die, but many others will also be born. And we must be prepared to support those small businesses. One of the things that's going to happen for all of us is that there's going to be a lot more of a buy Kenya, keep Kenya. And if that is the case, then we must support those small businesses, because that's where true buy Kenya, keep Kenya comes from. Thirdly is obviously there are a lot of formal jobs that have been lost, as you know, through this COVID. Where are those people who have expertise? Where are they going? The other people who are going to start many more of these businesses. So I expect that there'll be a lot of need to support those small businesses going forward.
All right. And Just to take you back briefly to the kind of successes that you had mentioned you recorded pre-COVID-19, would you say then that Stawi and other products such as SME guarantee scheme is something we should have perhaps introduced even before?
I believe so. I mean, the need for supporting SMEs has always been there. We even have, as you know, an SME Act that was done a while ago, MSME Act as we call it, that was done a while ago, which aimed at supporting these SMEs. Now I know there's talk of an entrepreneur bill that is being discussed, again to support these SMEs. So I think everybody knows the need. It's how we do it. And I do believe that we don't need another bill, another act, or any of that. What we need are these products that are aimed as interventions to support these small businesses. So should it have been done a long time ago? Yes. Is it better late than never? Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. And that has been Mr. John Gachora, the Group Managing Director of NCBA Group, talking to us about the successes and challenges of Stawi, at least 1 year since it was launched to serve the needs of the unbanked small and medium enterprises. And what better way to, of course, end this than, of course, get a testimony from a customer who has benefited from this product.
How did you came to know about Stawi?
It was this year in the month of January, just after I had paid the staff salaries and paid a bit of school bills. Then I looked at my cash flow and I realized that it is going. Then I just sat in the office and I said, now what do I do? Because I still have some other bills to pay.
Yes.
And at the same time now, I was having my phone. I was just going through YouTube, just enjoying myself. Then I came across a video clip. And I saw that His Excellency, the President Uhuru Kenyatta, he was launching the Stawi SME app. And I got very interested. So immediately after that, I called my secretary. I told her to install for me Stawi app. So she did it very quickly. And we went through the requirements, and I met all the requirements.
Yes.
They wanted the school registration, the city council license,
yes,
and of course the registration of business. So I had everything ready. So immediately we did it. I applied for the loan.
So you scanned these documents mkawatuma tu?
Yes, immediately. Okay. My secretary was very fast because he also knew we needed the money. So immediately I applied for the loan.
Yes.
And to my surprise, I was given 18,000 Kenya shillings. I was so happy because now I knew I had enough money to settle down my bills.
Yes.
At the end of that month,
yes,
I managed to clear that loan.
Yes.
And then after 2 days again, I decided why not again just go and get some more.
The first one went through anyway.
Yes, so the first one went through, so I just needed some more.
Yes.
So I went again, went to the Stawi app, and I applied for another loan. Then I was given, to my surprise again, I was given 34,000 Kenya shillings. I was so happy, and I just felt now this is the right app that I should be using every other time.
Yes.
So that was now in March. So around 15th of March, the schools closed down because of COVID-19. And there I was with 34,000 Kenya shillings for Stawi app. I didn't know what to do, but I went home and I sat down and I thought, now what do I do? I decided to send an email to Stawi, requesting them to extend my loan up to June, when we have been told that we might open the schools. So the Stawi, they agreed to do that, and I was so happy with Stawi. because I could not even imagine the way they replied so fast. So come end of June, the schools were not reopened.
I remember.
So we were given up to around September. So again, I went and and sent another email. I requested again if they would extend my loan up to end of September.
Yes.
And to my surprise, the reply that I got was very, 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 very encouraging. That you don't even have to worry to pay the whole amount at once. You can also pay it in installment. So from the end of September, you're going to
restructure it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that you may pay it in
installment.
Yeah, installment. And I was so happy. In fact, when we opened, we did not also open again in September. But thank God, because of that installment, I was able to pay my first installment.
Okay.
Yeah. So far, so good.
So during this time that you're facing these challenges ukaingia Stawi na nini, before walimu wako walikubali kukaa na wewe, wakasema watakula ngumu na wewe hadi mwisho?
Yeah, kwa kweli walikubali. Yeah, we have no problem. Even when the class 4s and class 8s came back, when I called them, they had no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, they were there for me. They knew that we had been getting on well, and I had never disappointed them. Okay. So they had no problem.
Yeah. That's very good. So given your experience so far, is our offering what you want to go with going forward? Ama do you think there's something else that unaona tunafaa kurekebisha?
As for me, I think I'm ready to to go on with you people. Stawi. Yeah. Okay.
And any people you've referred to Stawi, kwa chama, kwa rafiki?
Yes. I introduced one lady, a friend of mine. Yes. And she also took her alone. Yes. And she told me she was so happy because she had nothing even in her house to feed the family. Yeah.
I know. Corona imechapa watu visiria sana. You know, one of the things yenye tunakuja kugundua ni sasa zile watu wezi kutana. You can't share ideas. Kama mwezi share ideas, unaweza kapata you know something but you don't know it. Kama mbeleni, ukienda safata sahi ukiangalia different businesses that are out there. Ama ukiangalia watu wanataka kuanza biashara. Wote wanaogopa juu ya corona. Watu wanaenda wanaomba marafiki zao hela hawalipi. So deni imekuwa kitu watu walipi. Unapata mtu anaenda kwa banka na deni lakini hana chochote. Hako registered, hakuna mtu anamfahamu, and they don't pay loans. Kwa watu kama hao, unaweza kawaambia nini from your experience with the money that ukapata na ukasema hii inaweza kanipelekesha mpaka hapa? Because you are not greedy. Au kwa ukasema nataka hii yote afu kimbie. Ulianza polepole tu. Watu kama unaweza waambia nini?
Ningewaambia ni vyema kulipa deni. Wakati unapoomba unakuwa na shida. Kwa hivyo shida inapomalizika usisahau kurudisha kule ambapo uliomba. Na hiyo ndio ilifanya kwamba nikaweza kuandika hiyo email. Niwaeleze ya kwamba pesa zenyu bado najua niko nazo. Lakini nitatimiza ahadi. Lazima nitamalizia.
Any plans you have for the school? Wakifungua shule sasa kwa kila mtu?
Saa hizi. Najua nitarudi kule Stawi. So bado tunahitaji
some assistance.
Yeah. Tunahitaji pesa. We don't have enough.
Yes.
Yeah, we need money so that to run the school. Yeah.
Okay. That is very good to know.
Stawi ni moja.